Hey, welcome to edX World and another video in the AS A-Level Financial Accounting series. This video is on International Accounting Standard 7, the Statement of Cash Flow. So in this video, we understand all the important terms that are covered in the standard and also see how do we prepare the cash flow statement. So first we start understanding the important terms that are mentioned in the IAS 7 that are relevant if you want to understand the format of the cash flow statement. You would be aware that cash flows in the cash flow statement are presented under operating, investing and financing activities. So here we'll study how do we calculate cash flows under each of these activities. We will reconcile the closing cash and cash equivalents as per the statement of cash flows with the closing cash and cash equivalents as per the balance sheet. And finally, I'll walk you through the important adjustments that are present in the question in the exam, and I feel students get confused because of these adjustments. The first important term that you need to know is the cash and cash equivalents. So cash and cash equivalents includes your cash in hand, your cash at bank, and highly liquid short-term investments that can be converted into cash without any loss in value. What do you mean by short-term? Usually, if investments are maturing within 3 months from the balance sheet date, they are considered to be a part of cash and cash equivalents. The next term is the cash flows. So cash flows refers to the inflows and outflows of cash and cash equivalents. So any of these components of cash and cash equivalents, if they change due to either cash inflows or cash outflows. And in the statement of cash flows, we are supposed to present all these sources of cash inflows and outflows. So I can clearly say that the statement of cash flows will exclude all transactions that are of non-cash nature, that are not happening in cash, and also exclude all transactions that are only causing a change within the cash and cash equivalents. One of the components of cash equivalents is increasing and the other is decreasing. So these two set of transactions will be excluded from our statement of cash flows. Let's understand the meaning of the three activities first. Operating activities refers to the principal revenue generating or principal revenue producing activities of the enterprise. Meaning what? Every business is set up to deal in certain kind of products, services and generate revenue. So dealing in that particular good or service is the principal revenue generating activity of that business. For example, a trading business, the principal revenue generating activity would be the sales and the purchases of the goods. For a bank, the principal revenue producing activities would be giving away loans, accepting deposits, receipts and payments of interest, etc. Other than that, operating activities also includes all other activities which are neither investing activities nor financing activities. So I can say that operating activity is also the residual head for the purpose of statement of cash flows. I will come back to this again and give you some examples for which type of transactions is this applicable. Investing activities refers to all the transactions relating to acquisition and disposal of your fixed assets and your investments. And finally, we have the financing activity that refers to all transactions that cause a change in the capital structure of the company, meaning that cause a change in the equity or the borrowings of the company. So now we understand operating activities in a bit more detail and also see the format that is used to calculate the cash flow from operating activities. Definition of operating activities I've already given you. Some examples of transactions that come under operating activities. Again, I've given you some examples already, but here I've listed them. Collection from debtors for the goods sold, payment to suppliers for the goods that have been purchased, payment of any other expense in the day-to-day operations of the business. All these are examples of operating activities. Now, cash flows from operating activities can be calculated using two ways. One is the direct method, another is the indirect method. To calculate cash flow from operating activities under the direct method, one is expected to list out all these sources that have caused inflows and outflows of cash during the year. For example, collection of debtors, so and so amount, payment to suppliers, so and so amount. This is one way which is usually not used, especially for your examination purposes. Direct method is not there in the syllabus. What is there in the syllabus is the indirect method. To calculate cash flow from operating activities under the indirect method, we start with our profit from operations, make certain adjustments to arrive at the cash flow from operating activities. So in the next few slides, I will show you the format that is used to calculate cash flow from operating activities using the indirect method. But before going to the format, I would like to discuss with you the general format of the income statement and statement of changes to equity. So if I have to prepare my income statement, let's say I calculate my gross profit. To the gross profit, we will add our operating incomes and deduct our operating expenses to arrive at the profit from operations. This is a very important figure that you have to keep in mind, because this will be the basis for calculation of our cash flow from operating activities. Then we deduct our non-operating expenses, which is usually the finance cost or the interest. If there are any non-operating incomes, that would obviously be added to arrive at the profit before tax. We deduct our tax provision to arrive at the net profit after tax. And then in the statement of changes to equity, here we are just referring to our retained earnings column, not the entire format. We have our opening balance of the retained earnings that comes from the previous closing balance. To this, we will add our net profit after tax as per the income statement, deduct any transfers to general reserve and payment of dividend, and finally arrive at the closing balance. Now, the reason why I'm discussing this format is because in your exam, profit from operations will not be directly given. Why do you need profit from operations? Because that is the starting point of calculation of cash flow from operating activities. Isn't it very logical to start with profit from operations? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to calculate cash flow from operating activities. And hence profit from operations would be the best figure to start with to arrive at the cash flow from operating activities, because very few adjustments would have to be made to arrive at the correct cash flow. Now, in the exam, you may not be given profit from operations directly. Sometimes it could be given, sometimes it may not be given. What you would be given in exam is the opening and closing balances of the retained earnings as per the balance sheet. You would have the details of transfer to general reserve. If directly not given, then you might be having opening and closing balances of general reserve. The difference is transfer to general reserve. They would give you the details of dividends paid, interim and final. They would also give you tax provision for the year. They would give you interest charges for the year. So basically, you have to start with the difference in your retained earnings balance. To this, I will go reverse from the statement of changes in equity. I will go reverse and add back whatever was subtracted, deduct whatever was added to arrive at the profit from operations. So difference in retained earnings balance, which is difference between the closing and opening balances. To this, I will add my dividends paid. I will add my transfer to general reserve. I will add back my provision for taxes. And I will also add back any interest expense for the period. When I add back all these to the difference in retained earnings, what I get at the end is profit from operations. So this is important to start your cash flow from operating activities. So keep in mind, if profit from operations is not directly given, use this working note to arrive at the profit from operations. So let's say we have our cash flow statement for the year. I told you the starting point is profit from operations. So step 1 is calculation of profit from operations. Now step 2 in the cash flow statement from operating activities is to make adjustments for all your non-cash items. So in your income statement, when we added our operating incomes and deducted our operating expenses, obviously a few non-cash incomes and expenses might have been adjusted, but since this is only a cash flow statement, it has to exclude all the non-cash transactions. So the effect of non-cash transactions has to be reversed here. So whatever was subtracted, like the operating expenses that were of non-cash nature were subtracted, I will have to add back here. So I'll say add back depreciation, losses on disposal, any increase in doubtful debts, and any operating income of non-cash nature that was added earlier in the income statement will now have to be deducted, like gain on disposals, any decrease in doubtful debts, or any other non-cash operating income. So this was step number 2. In step number 3, we make adjustments for changes in working capital. Now why? Your income statement would obviously have your revenues, your purchases, your expenses. It is not necessary that all these transactions have happened for cash during the year. Okay. For example, if I take my revenues, it is not necessary all my sales have happened for cash. If these transactions do not happen for cash, what is the impact of these on the balance sheet items? The impact is that the working capital changes. So the difference in opening and closing balances of the working capital items tell you about the cash or non-cash part of the transactions in the income statement. For example, if my debtors opening balance is 5,000 and the closing balance is 7,000, this tells me that my debtors have increased from 5,000 to 7,000. It means 2,000 of my revenues that are in the income statement are not for cash. They are for credit. Since they are not for cash, I will have to reduce the effect of 2,000 from the cash flow statement, and hence I will have to deduct any increase in the current asset. I will have to deduct. Same goes for inventory. Let's say inventory increases from 10,000 to 15,000. What does it indicate? It indicates that 5,000 cash has been spent on inventory, and hence any increase in current asset is always deducted. On the other hand, if I talk about decrease in current assets, for example, my debtors have decreased from 8,000 to 6,000. It means that I've been able to collect 2,000 extra cash from my debtors during the year. In that case, I will have to add any decrease in my current assets. Going to your current liabilities, let's say we talk about trade payables. What does an increase in trade payables indicate? Increase in trade payables indicates that some purchases have been made on credit. These purchases have been deducted in the income statement to arrive at profit from operations. But since these are on credit, the cash has not been paid for them, and hence any increase in your current liabilities will have to be added back. On the other hand, any decrease in current liabilities will have to be deducted, because decrease in current liability means a part of the current liabilities have actually been paid in cash during the year. So step number 3 would be deduct any increase in current assets, add any decrease in current assets, add any increase in current liabilities, and deduct any decrease in current liabilities. And finally, we arrive at our step number 4, where we deduct our taxes paid and interest paid during the year. Now, why are taxes paid deducted here? If you remember, I told you operating activities include all your principal revenue producing activities and all other transactions that do not fall in investing or financing activities. If you think about it, taxes paid do not fall under either operating, investing, or financing activities. But since operating activity is the residual head, taxes paid are shown at the end of the operating activities as a deduction. Another thing to keep in mind here is that previous year's tax that is there in the balance sheet is always paid in the current year, and hence previous year's tax is subtracted in the operating activities cash flow statement. The second item that we deduct here is interest paid. But one important thing that you have to keep in mind is there's an alternate treatment also possible for interest payments, because interest payments are actually financing activities. So interest payments can be shown under financing activities, but the IAS 7 allows you to show interest paid under operating activities as well. When I make all these adjustments to my profit from operations, what I get at the end is cash flow from or cash flow used in operating activities. If the number is positive, if the figure is positive at the end, you will use cash flow from. But if the figure is negative at the end, you will use cash flow used in operating activities, indicating a negative cash flow under operating activities. Going to investing and financing activities, here the presentation of cash flow is quite simple. You have to just list down all the transactions that have caused an increase or decrease in the cash flows. So starting with investing activities, I told you investing activities relates to your acquisition and disposal of your assets and investments, and hence directly I can say my acquisition or purchase of my fixed assets will be deducted because it's a cash outflow. My disposal proceeds of fixed assets will be added, inflow. Purchase of investments will be deducted again because they're outflow, and sale of investments would be added. Any interest, dividend, rent received on investments that have been made will be added to cash flow from investing activities to arrive at the final cash flow from or cash flow used in investing activities. And finally, we have the cash flow from financing activities. Financing activities include all transactions that cause a change in your capital structure, changes in the equity or the borrowings, and related transactions. Keeping that in mind, I'll show you some transactions that can appear in the cash flow from financing activities. Issue of shares. If the company is issued fresh shares, doesn't matter in form of rights issue, that will come as an inflow in the cash flow statement from financing activities. Share premium received. If shares are issued at a premium will also be included here. Any debentures, fresh debentures are issued or bank loans are received, that will be an inflow in the cash flow from financing activities. Any redemption of debentures or repayment of bank loan will be an outflow because it causes a decrease in the capital employed and causes an outflow of cash and cash equivalents from the business. Apart from these, any dividends, interim or final dividend paid during the year will be an outflow. I told you interest paid could be showed under financing activities. Alternatively, it can be shown in under operating activities as well. And once all of this is done, you will arrive at the total cash flow from or total cash flow used in financing activities. After calculating cash flows under each of these individual activities, then we have to take a total of cash flows from all the activities together to arrive at the net cash flow or net cash used during the year. To this, I will add the opening cash and cash equivalents to arrive at my closing cash and cash equivalents. Isn't it very logical? If the net increase in cash and cash equivalents, let's say, is $2 million during the year, and the opening cash and cash equivalents is $4 million, obviously the closing cash and cash equivalents has to be $6 million. So the net change in cash is added to the opening to arrive at the closing cash and cash equivalents, and this closing cash and cash equivalents is reconciled with the closing cash and cash equivalents as per the balance sheet to make sure that these two figures are the same. If these two figures are the same, it more or less indicates that you've not made any mistake or any calculation mistake while preparing the cash flow statement. Now let me walk you through some common adjustments that are given with cash flow statement. When these adjustments are given, you'll have to prepare some ledger accounts to calculate the missing numbers, and these missing numbers will be helpful in completing your cash flow statement. For example, let me go to the first one, which is the provision for tax. Talking about tax, in the balance sheet, provision for tax that is in the current year's column is assumed to be provided in this year and hence added in the step 1 of our cash flow from operating activities, and the previous years is assumed to be paid in the current year and hence deducted in the step 4 of the cash flow from operating activities. But what if the tax provided or tax paid has been explicitly given as an adjustment in the question? In that case, your balances brought down and carried down will come from the balance sheet. Your taxes paid, if given, will come on the debit side, and the tax charged or tax provided will be the balancing figure. But if tax charged or tax provided is given, in that case your bank or your tax paid will be the balancing figure. In any case, you need these two numbers to complete your cash flow statement. So if one of them is given, you'll have to prepare this account to arrive at the missing number and complete your cash flow statement. Coming to a non-current asset account, sometimes they might give you details of your purchase of new non-current assets, but the cost of assets disposed of would be missing, and that is required to arrive at the loss or gain on disposal of assets so that you can complete your cash flow statement. In that case, you could prepare your non-current assets to arrive at the missing number. Or they might give you the cost of the assets disposed of. Opening and closing balances will obviously be available from the balance sheet, but the new non-current assets purchased would be missing. That can also be calculated using this format. At times, you may have to prepare an asset disposal account, either to calculate the sale proceeds from the sale or to calculate the profit or loss on disposal. Depends on what information is given in the question and what information is missing. And finally, you might have to make some investments account because they might give you purchase of new investments, but the sale of old investments, the sale value would be missing. So this is required to calculate that. Or the profit or loss made on the sale would be missing. This would be required to calculate the profit or loss. Or if sale value and profit and loss is given, but the purchase of new investments could be missing. So in any case, you need to prepare these accounts to arrive at the missing figures so that you can complete your cash flow statement. I hope I was able to make this topic easier and simpler for you compared to what it was before watching this video. I'm also going to upload a solved example for this topic, so make sure to check out my next video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. You will be notified as soon as I upload the video, and you can watch it to reinforce the concepts and get complete conceptual clarity. Thank you for being with me. If you've enjoyed the video, please like the video. Please share the video with your friends. Thank you.